Let me turn to the gentlelady from Wyoming, Ms. Lummis, for any questions you may have. And let me just indicate this will probably be the last round for now of questions because there's a vote that's coming up pretty soon.
Before I begin, I'd like to yield to Mr. Hastings.
Real briefly, thank you, for gentlelady, for yielding. Ms. Maloney said that the private property water rights are protected, yet Title VI has language in there that essentially potentially creates a new water right for wilderness areas, therefore only overturning state's water rights. And I want to say that for a record. I thank the gentlelady for yielding.
Point of clarification. NREPA reserves water rights consistent with state law.
Mr. Chairman?
It is not attempting to overrule that. So it is consistent with state law that preserves water rights.
Ms. Lummis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin with my 5 minutes, I would like to ask unanimous consent to submit my opening statement for the record and several other documents. Specifically, I would like to submit letters of opposition and in some cases formal resolutions of opposition to H.R. 980 from the following interests and entities in Wyoming: the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, the Wyoming County Commissioners Association, the Wyoming Weed and Pest Council, the Board of Lincoln County Commissioners, Wyoming Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife, the Sublette County Conservation District, the Star Valley Conservation District, the Sublette County Assessor, the Wyoming Republican Party Central Committee, the Wyoming Mining Association, and most importantly, the Wilderness Society, Wyoming office. Mr. Chairman, may I submit those
Without
documents
objection.
for the record? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
To one of the previous speakers, Ms. Shea Porter, you mentioned that you want to be able to come and enjoy the beauty of other areas of the country, and the fact of the matter is this bill will make it so you will not be able to come and enjoy that beauty because wilderness areas will exclude you from being able to come and enjoy that beauty. Questions for the sponsor. Representative Maloney, how many years have you been pursuing this legislation?
19 years.
Well, you're tenacious, and I applaud your tenacity.
I'm often described as a tenacious legislator.
Let me ask you some questions. During those 19 years, how much time have you spent, or have the bill supporters spent, in Wyoming working to gain support from local people, or vetting the impacts with locally elected officials, or gathering the viewpoints of local public land managers in Wyoming?
I have spent 2 weeks in the designated area talking to leaders in the area.
In Wyoming?
And I've been, Wyoming and Wyoming and other parts, Montana. I've been there, and
Mr. Chairman,
down the Salmon River. I saw 2 bears and an eagle.
Mr. Chairman, can you tell me
And the
where?
Wilderness Act provides for reasonable access to private inholding, so I don't understand why the person couldn't get access to their property because the federal law says it should be protected.
Have you ever been to Pinedale, Wyoming?
Pinedale, Wyoming? No, I have not been to Pinedale, Wyoming.
Afton, Wyoming?
No, I've been to the capital of Wyoming.
The capital is where I live, Mr. Chairman, and it is about an 8-hour drive or about 400 miles away from the area that we're talking about. If Central Park were on fire, the trees were on fire, would it be all right with you that the fire be put out?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
Because it's very dangerous to the people living right by Central Park.
And indeed,
in fact, 6 people in the census reported they lived in Central Park.
Mr. Chairman, that would also be the case with the people who live in and near the area of designation for wilderness. Would you, if the trees were being destroyed in Central Park by insects, would you agree to having those trees treated to prevent it from spreading all over Central Park and killing every tree?
Absolutely. And we are doing that right now. The Asian longhorn beetle, regretfully, is attacking Central Park now.
No,
we're trying to keep it
Yeah,
quarantine.
Mr. Chairman, I feel for you, and I feel for the residents of Wyoming who are suffering through pine beetle damage that they cannot get adequate protection from. Mr. Chairman, would you consent to removing the roads that cross Central Park, that transverse Central Park?
Well, Central Park is not a wilderness area. Central Park is a park, and certainly the roads are an important part of it. It is not a wilderness designation. It's apples and oranges. It's not an accurate comparison.
And I can assure you, Mr. Chairman, the roads are an important part of the areas that we're talking about here to the people who live there. My time is up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.